Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We got a chance to sit down with Dan, the Music Man Albrecht, and talk from everything from the tornado back in the Belvedere days to walking all the way to growing up on a farm. So, big thanks to Dan for sitting down, and hope that you guys enjoy. Let's see where it goes. All right, we're back. Take two, Dano.
No, wait a minute. I goofed something up.
Gotta get your headphones back on. You're good. I don't know.
I didn't. Something. Okay.
You got it? Here. Let me see it. Hold on. Just go like that. There you go.
Thanks.
Yeah. You good. Set up there. There we go. Okay. Take two.
Working?
Considering, yeah, it's working now. Well, hopefully it still works.
Okay.
Considering that we had what we said, the power went out. I was saying the power went out on Sunday, and it messed with this computer because normally I have all the settings saved, and so it didn't, and so we're good now.
Well, obviously the power caught everybody off guard. I came down from 8:00 church. I came down to the music room, and then I no sooner got down there, I was going to do a little work in the office, and the guy was down there warming his instrument up for 9:30, and the power went off, and I said, well, it's going to turn that live stream into a live drip.
Yeah.
But
No, it's interesting. I know you were just saying it before, but we got interrupted by the computer problems. All right, good. It's going good now. Before we get interrupted by it, but I was saying that for you were saying that it's weird for the whole not having anybody in church, and I was saying for me working on the technical side in the back with all that stuff, it's not really that weird because all you're focused on is that.
Yeah.
Versus, I know, you have a lot different of a personality, but also a dynamic when it comes to.
Yeah, see, I don't pay attention to what you guys are doing unless we get really screwed up, like with the screens and a hymn verse or something. And then it's like, okay, who's gonna, how's it gonna work? Who's gonna lead, or we got to follow? We got to work together. I mean, it usually always takes care of itself. But then all it's really different than stuff was like when I was in my 30s. But it's all right. So.
Yeah. No, I think that it's just something. I mean, you were saying before that you were like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing with this, or I'm really nervous podcast. And I think it's just a generational thing. Like, I grew up with a lot of technology, not necessarily, I grew up in the middle of Iowa, so it's not like I grew up with a ton of like technology in like, California or something like that. But growing up around that kind of stuff, and especially like throughout college and after college, being used to that, I'm much more comfortable with that versus,
And it's got to be a generational thing. But I know there are people that are like, I mean, big deal. I just turned 60. Okay, big deal. But I mean, there's people that are 2 decades older than I am, and they're more with it with technology. So I mean, you gotta want to do it, and you have to be willing to learn it. And I think what some of this stuff has done the last few weeks, even as speaking as a teacher, this whole electronic learning or whatever, communicating with the kids. I mean, if somebody would have told me a year ago, boy, you better really know how to do this because you're going to need it someday, I'd have looked at him and said, you're crazy. I'm never going to do that. I'd like to sit in front of kids and try and teach them something and have some fun, and hopefully they'll teach me something too. But it's really been a learning curve, and we're all on it. The teachers that I work with here, or teachers in general, where everybody's trying to figure out how do we make this work for the next few weeks. And
it'll
work.
In the next few weeks, probably. I mean, more than likely the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, is what a lot of people are talking about is that we're just done for the year, and so be e-learning for 2 months.
Yeah, they just extended it to the end of the month, at least for Illinois. And I don't know, by the time you get to the end of the month, end of April, then you're looking at like 3 weeks in May, and you're done with school. So, anyway.
I saw it this morning. I saw a bunch of posts. People had told their kids that, as an April Fool's joke, they were telling their kids that they needed to, they weren't going to pass their grade, like that they needed to repeat whatever grade they're in, and that's how that was. And a bunch of people had videos of their kids freaking out, and then April Fool's. Because I totally forgot it's April Fool's because I've been so busy with, everything.
I know.
Trying to get stuff done.
I usually wind up at least doing 3, 4, or 5 April Fool things and getting some people, but I don't know. It's been kind of weird.
I mean,
I knew it was, but I just didn't take the time. You don't see people either.
the only reason that I know what day of the week it is because we have like stuff to do every single day for streaming or for going live or with all this stuff is that part of the schedule. Otherwise, like, I mean, people don't even know what day of the week it is. They're just at home, like, doing work or not working.
It just discombobulates you. My wife and I were talking because we're both creatures of, going through the seasonal Lent, and you get your Wednesday night service, and you get choir practice, and you got this, and you're getting closer to Easter, and you're looking at a Good Friday service coming up. And I mean, it's just, you get in a rhythm of doing that, and then it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And you do other things, and we've been able to, with the different churches that my wife is involved with, as well as myself, we've been able to help with some of their recording and some of the music and do some of that stuff, which has been a learning curve also. But hopefully we're reaching out as we
reach out. Here's the thing. Don't put yourself, hopefully, because you have the personality. You have a really good personality with people, and so that translates really well when you're, talking to people, or if you're helping out with, multimedia or content or whatever it is. I mean, you have a personality that translates kind of transcends whether it's in person or not in person.
Well, and if I'm doing something, if I'm doing something that like this or whatever that I don't know what I'm doing, I'll just say to somebody, "Well, just make sure you talk to me nice and loud and slow, and I'll probably figure it out."
Yeah. But, and like I had said. Like I told you at the beginning of this, like before we started, was like, it's just a conversation. Like I don't come in doing this with any like agenda, or like this is what I want to talk about. It's just our goal since, the very first one, which is only 3 ago, but me and Aaron talked about this, and Michael helping us get everything kind of going with it, was our goal is to be able to sit down with people that we think are interesting from our congregation that work here, and then from around the congregation eventually is the goal. And to sit down with them and hear about, how God's worked in their life, how God is working in their life, who they are, where they came from, why they do what they do. Just talk about them, life in general. I mean, especially now with all this going on, it's such a, an interesting time to have perspectives from all sorts of different people. I mean, we're talking to everybody that's, working at the same place. And so, even working at the same place, we have totally different viewpoints on how it's all affecting people and how it's all going.
If you're talking about with people in the congregation looking for interesting, I mean, you're in the right place, because this place is full of a lot of people that have some real stories to tell, and they're very interesting.
Yeah.
When you take the time to get to know them a little bit and say, wow.
Yeah, and that's the goal, is that, anybody that listens to this gets the chance to not just hear me talk the whole time, or if Aaron's in here, Aaron talk the whole time, but to get to hear from other people and get to kind of know people from their neighbors, get to know who they are, and it's a nice little get to know you piece thing.
So you're functioning okay with the wife and the kids and everybody?
Well, so here's the thing. So Carmela sometimes has to go into work because they have catering a whole bunch, and sometimes they get super swamped. So like today she went in, and so trying to do youth stuff at home and then do video and streaming stuff, getting that stuff ready and everything like that. Like this morning I came in and helped out, or did streaming for chapel for Pastor Keith, and then I did a live stream, and then he did a live stream. So Carmelo left after I got back home, but when I got back home, trying to do that. And Dennis is cool. Like, he'll sit there and does his homework, and then he watches YouTube and plays on his Switch the whole time. So he really likes that kind of stuff. Dude, man, a 2-year-old girl is a totally different animal than a 2-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Totally different animal. I mean, he was the sweetest, nicest kid ever, and she is a 16-year-old, like, a sorority girl.
Yeah.
She's bananas. Like, if she doesn't get her way, she screams. No, she doesn't scream and yell, but like, she's very demanding about what she wants. And I mean, everybody says, like, if you have a strong-willed child, it's a good thing, but oh my gosh, when you're trying to do something on your computer and she's just in the background like, dad, over and over and over until you pay attention, then it's like whatever she wants, like, oh.
Well, one of the biggest compliments you can get, and we just received it not too long ago, was our kids who have a couple of kids. They basically asked us, how did you guys do that when the kids were, that type of an age? Mm-hmm. And I don't have any big words of wisdom or advice, but it just felt good to be asked how did you make it work, because it kind of justified, well, I guess we did do something right, or we tried to, and I mean but it's a whole different ballgame raising kids today probably than it was 30 years ago. But.
Well, I mean, that's what people say is like, they're always like, oh, well, this generation, this and that, and it's all the same thing. It's just a different way, like, Dennis really, we go outside and play when it's nice out, so there's not much different than that. But, the pitfalls of now is you can't just kind of let them be like, hey, go wherever you want, do whatever you want, and be home when the sun comes down. Like, there's a lot of dangerous stuff out there that you got to be careful with kids. And, maybe that's being a little bit helicopter parent, but you want to be smart with the world that there's out there. But, I mean, back in, when I was younger, so when your kids were younger, when we were kids, there were still, the same kind of thing. It was just not as magnified because you have social media now and everybody can see everything and the news. And I mean, there was still, like streaming news now, you can see everything all the time if you want. If we wanted to put on this computer, whatever news station you wanted to watch, it's 24 hours going.
Well, and I think, when you're talking about the kids going out to play, I mean, I can remember our kids were small. They'd take a bat and a couple of tennis balls and they'd go down to Perry School right down Boone Street, and they'd play ball down there and hang out at the playgrounds, and we'd say, yeah, we'll see you whenever you get back or whatever. And so, I mean, you didn't worry that much about it, but what you talked about being connected and looking at stuff, you could look 24/7 at all the news stuff that's happening with the whole COVID thing, and what that does, it just raises your whole level of angst. I mean, I'm not saying you should put your head in the sand like an ostrich and not even realize what's going on. You need to be informed, but I think you can go off the deep end and be so informed that it just consumes you.
And I mean, that's a great thing for anything. I mean, it's all moderation, right? I mean, you get, like I said, if you could turn it on right now and have news 24/7, 7 days a week, just constantly going, or you could watch absolutely nothing and, live in the middle of the forest. Well, I don't think either of those are beneficial to, I mean, neither are not healthy, but to being a well-rounded person, I guess you would say. I mean, a hermit, somebody living in the middle of the woods all by themselves, I guess that's the word, is a hermit. I don't know how you're going to turn out socially if you're not interacting with other people.
And back to the COVID thing, I mean, I was chatting with my sister, who's been a nurse up at near Mayo Clinic, St. Mary's Hospital up in Rochester. She's been up there 36, 37 years. And anyway, we were talking about this, and I said, you know what? We don't have any listed cases in Boone County. And she said,
"Oh, you better knock on wood."
Yeah, and she said to me, "You have cases. You just don't know, and you haven't tested." And that's true. I don't know if any tests have been made, in this county. But so, again, like I say, you can say, "Oh yeah, well it's not here." Well, it is here, and it's around.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's why, I mean, it's important that we're doing what we're doing with church and, saying, hey, we're going to do the whole social distancing thing. I was telling Aaron yesterday, I can't, or the other day, last podcast, that I'm not a big fan of like buzzwords like that, like social distancing. And all of a sudden now it's like this cliche thing to say, but I mean, it is what it is, like, not gathering in giant groups. That's why we're doing it, to be able to, protect people and help them, because, it's something that gets passed around very easily, supposedly. And so you want to be as cautious as you can, and it's not easy and it's really tough. And it's one of these things where, it's kind of a monumental thing in our lifetime that this is what's happening. But, I mean, there's monumental things that happen in every generation, kind of a deal. And this seems to be one of the, as of right now, one of the bigger ones that's happening. But,
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what different events that have happened in the world over the centuries, I mean, the people are hearkening back to the old Spanish flu in 1918 and how many lives that took, and it did. You didn't have the exposure. You didn't have TV. I guess you had some sort of when radio was invented, but anyway, barely radio and newspapers. I mean,
and think about that. That's only 100 years ago. That was a little more than 100 years ago that you had the Spanish flu, and everybody's like, "Oh man, that's." I mean, it sounds bad, but it is what it is. Like that kind of stuff happens, and we try to be ready for it. And the great thing about being Christians is that we understand that we have a God that's in control, and even. And I always try to tell my students and other people that I get to talk to that God being in control doesn't mean like, oh, he's just going to wipe the virus out. That's not what that means. The fact that God's in control is that no matter what happens here on earth, because it's a sinful place and there's sinful things, and so death and disease happen. But God in control means that we don't have, concern that when we are no longer here, no matter how bad or what happens here, that we get to be in heaven.
When frightening or sad or bad things happen to you, whatever they are, if you have a God that you can say to the Lord, "Get me through this." I mean, it'll
if you don't get through it, you have eternal life.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I always try to tell people, because they're like, well, God is going to get me through this and he's going to protect me. And it's like, you are going to be protected, but the more important thing is your soul's protected, that you're protected eternally, and that no matter what happens in your 70, 80, 90, 100 years in this earth, who knows, in the next 30 years we might be living to be 140 because of technology. But no matter what happens, what's going to happen when you're no longer here.
And that God's love and grace, it's surrounding us and it's living through us, and without it, we could not live.
Yeah.
So with it, we live, and we live under His grace and under the cross, and it'll all work out.
Well, and here's what it probably doesn't come across, because I love for me at least, I love the technology aspect of stuff with the streaming and everything we're doing now. But I really enjoy the fact that we get to have, Pastor Keith or Pastor Pollock or whoever, Pastor Wagner when he gets to, or whoever is the one that's talking, the one that's preaching, get to have them be in people's homes, kind of like, back in the day when, this is probably when you were younger, but you all watched the family evening news. Mm-hmm. So you get done with dinner and everybody goes sit down at the couch and, and then watch the news and, I don't know if it was Walter Cronkite or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Barbara Walters.
Peter Jennings a little later,
but you sat down with that and you did like your family, show kind of a thing, and then we used to do that in our house, but ours were a little more of a different feel. I remember sitting down and we'd watch like Roseanne together or Home Improvement, those sitcoms. But you'd take that time and you'd sit down and you'd be able to do that, and then you'd go to bed or whatever it was that you need to do. But you had that like family time. And I feel like that's gotten so far gone, because, dad's got to take somebody to this practice, and then this person has this recital, and then you have this work thing. And so people are all over the place. And, if something good can come out of this, other than, trusting God, if anything good come out of this, I think it's that we get to be together a little bit more as a family unit.
Makes you kind of analyze what really matters or what's important. Yeah.
Well, as that family unit, and so that's why I love being able to stream this, and that, it's becoming such an important thing for our congregation and for a lot of congregations in the LCMS, because, people can't go to church.
Right.
They can't physically go to church. Right. And so therefore, as a family, they get to go to church together in their homes. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that I think wouldn't come to physically church that are probably now getting to see church because it's popping up on their social media, and they're scrolling through their Facebook or, on YouTube watching random videos, and all of a sudden pops up, hey, Emmanuel Belvedere's live. Yeah. And they click on that, and it's not just, hey, we get to get God's word to them. That's the most important thing. But it's also this, like, hey, I've seen a lot of pictures of people all together around on their TV, that have their TV streaming church, and they get to sit there, and it's like that family time that you had, that family unit stuff. So
yeah, that's true. And I think at our last meeting on Tuesday, I think some numbers were shared. We had a real good group of people that have whatever hits or whatever you call it, that connected up with our streaming views, or whatever.
Very good. Okay, just letting you know.
Yeah. But that's great, and it really is an uptick, over what it's been. So it's how we're staying together,
Yeah. Well, and I can just imagine, if we didn't have some of the technology stuff, not just for streaming, but being able to call people. Like, I can FaceTime my in-laws and my mom every night with the kids, and they get to see the kids every single night, versus if you didn't have that capability, and something like this happened, you're really isolated then.
Yeah, that's true.
And you think about, I don't know how you are with your neighbors. You're probably much more like you probably know your neighbors much better than we. We've only lived in our house for, I think, 6 years now, which is a long time. And we know our one neighbors really well. But like the rest of our neighbors, we don't really know. And the other night when there was that, because everybody's at home, and there was that tornado warning.
Yeah.
or watched because there wasn't really a warning. It was the sirens went off in Rockford, but there was that tornado possibility, and I was outside because I'm a Midwest dad, and so I go outside and I sit out there and I had a beverage and I sat there on the porch and just kind of looked at the sky and waited for it to start raining so I could go inside, or if I could hear, I was always told when I was younger, if you hear a train coming in the distance,
that's what I heard.
that is go inside. And so I always sit out there because I'm like, if I'm inside watching TV or hanging out, I can't hear a siren. I mean, it's just right down the road from us, but I still can't really hear it. So I was like, I sat out there, and my neighbor, kitty corner from us, was like, hey, there's supposed to be a big storm coming through. And I was like, yep. So we sat there at 10 o'clock at night and yelled at each other back and forth across the road. And, probably wouldn't have happened if, we weren't isolated at home, stuck at home kind of a deal. You see, my kids are also drawing pictures for the neighbors across the street, and they're hanging them on their door because they're doing all these like scavenger hunts around and stuff like that.
Well, and basically, with the whole tornado question, I mean, people my age and older, or maybe 58, 59 and older, I mean, they've got pretty strong memories of when the tornado
Oh
hit
yeah, I
here in
forgot about that.
67. And when I first came to Belvedere in 83, there was still a lot of talk about the 67 tornado, because that was only, what was 67 to 83, about 16 years. And when I talk tornado, I think 1965, because when I was 5 years old in Crystal Lake, where I was brought up, there was a Palm Sunday tornado that hit that day. And so any time somebody starts talking tornado right away, my mind goes back to 1965, because I remember quite a bit of what happened that day, with different things of damage and on our farm and stuff. But
Where around here in Crystal Lake?
In Crystal Lake.
Okay,
yeah, that's where I was born and raised.
Okay,
but here it's 67. I mean, that's the year that they think about. As a matter of fact, right where we're sitting having this whatever this is called podcast. It went right through here. I mean, it went right through where this addition is and the school and stuff. So, but yeah,
I don't know. I have a weird thing with tornadoes because I don't get super nervous, but if there's like
you must have seen a bunch in Iowa. Didn't you growing up or not?
No, I mean, I remember one time we were out at the farm and it got super duper windy to the point where I don't remember if the sirens were going off, but it was there, if not almost there. And we went into the house on the farm. We were out doing chores, and we ran into the house, and my grandpa looked at me, and he was like, hey. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you left all the buckets out. They're blowing all over the place. And so I got to run out in a dust bowl of gravel, and there's like 11-year-old or something like that, and grab all these 5-gallon buckets that we use for feed. They're just blowing all over the place. Because I mean, don't want the buckets to get
don't let those buckets blow away. Yeah,
but no, we didn't have any. My aunt and my cousin was terrified of thunderstorms and storms for the longest time because my aunt was very, overly cautious about them, and because of that, I think it rubbed off on her when she was younger. So my cousin was like anytime it thunder or lightning, we'd spend the night there. She always was super terrified of that, and it never bothered me. It really didn't. I mean, I think now that I have both the kids, I think that it freaks me out a little bit more. It's probably why I was sitting on my porch, so visual on it, trying to see what was going on. But I think that when I was younger, I don't know, it was. I mean, for those that have gone through a tornado and tornado damage, like the thing that just happened in Tennessee, my buddy, one of my buddies lives only a mile away from all where it is. For me to be like, no, not a big deal to me. They're like, well, yeah, because you didn't go through that, and I understand that, but it's never been a terrifying thing for me.
Yeah, and I think it has lessened in its effect on people here. But a couple of years ago, when they had the 50th anniversary of the tornado in 2017, they had not a celebration, but a remembrance memorial type thing. And I took a group of kids there, and we sang a hymn and stuff like that just to be part of it. And it was people came from far away to come for that memorial service.
Did people die in that?
I think 20, I'm going to say 29 people died.
Wow.
So, because when that tornado hit, I guess it was on a Friday, and it was the school buses were getting loaded, to take the kids home.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that was before cell phones and everything,
Yeah.
and letting people know what was going to happen. So
what was it like? I don't remember. I remember somebody saying something about kids here or some, I know obviously I know it hit the school, but like, was it during the day?
It was just like I said, people were starting to send the kids out to go home.
Oh, so it was in the afternoon.
Yeah, school was over.
Oh, wow.
Well, then they got it that it was going to happen. Well, then they got the rest of the kids that weren't going home yet. They got them in, and then they went down to the basement to try and protect themselves and things. But
Man, I hope that basement was a lot less sketchy than it is now.
yeah.
That basement's I've been down there a couple of times.
Yeah,
it's
right under the little gym. That was the only part of the school that existed at the time. But I guess so.
I don't. So okay, so you were a suburbs kid.
Yeah, I wasn't around here then. I was born and raised about 30 miles from here over in Crystal Lake.
Okay.
So.
And what you and Aaron, I was talking to Aaron about this last time. You and Aaron are super musically talented, and when I say that, I don't mean like rock star or whatever it is. I mean, if you hear something, or even if you just know something, you can like play it by ear. And I'm so fascinated by that. Like that I don't. What I told Aaron was, I don't remember. He remembered this, and he kind of did. But like that TV show Game of Thrones, it's got a very distinctive like opening that was really big, like dun 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 dun. And there's the opening theme song, and I was like, "Can you play that?" And he was like, "I don't know, I never heard it." So I played it, and literally sat down and played it in like 4 parts, and was like, I was like, it sounds like Mozart's playing it. Yeah. And so for you guys to be able to do that, so. I mean, is that something you've always been able to do?
I can't speak for Aaron, but I mean, and sometimes you meet up with people these days. And my wife, she has a piano studio. She has about 15 piano students, and sometimes you'll run across parents that say, "Oh, my kid's 4 years old. They want to take piano lessons." Well, some kids aren't ready for piano lessons at that young age. I started piano when I was 10 years old, and learned it, and went into high school and picked up the organ and learned that, and went off to college and did that. I mean, I don't think you have to start at a real young age. Some people do, and frankly, some kids are never ready for piano lessons. But anyway, that's another story.
Oh, it was me.
But I mean, I
need a sports ball.
Yeah,
I don't need a piano.
And I was clumsy. I was better at music than I was at sports. But anyway. But I guess it's just you develop that over time too. I mean, I think I had some ability like that 30-some years ago when I was Aaron's age, but Aaron's got a lot of ability. I mean, he does, and we both do, like you say. But it's so fun to work with him. I enjoy working with him. He's a good guy. And
you weren't a sports guy, you were a music guy.
Yeah.
Were you in like band and choir?
Well, and I was a farm kid, so I mean, back then you just didn't have like these sports stuff. Oh, I'm gonna go join a basketball club or volleyball club.
Travel
That's really
stuff.
big, travel clubs. I just didn't do that stuff. I helped on the farm, and that was it. So
what'd you guys have on your farm?
we had livestock. I mean, Dad had milk cows and stuff like that.
Okay, so you had dairy cows?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
I was pretty young when you got rid of the cows, but anyway, we had a lot of beef and stuff, chickens and
beef,
stuff.
chickens, anything else?
That's it.
No, just beef and chickens?
Yeah. So, and then near the end, the last 15 years or so, my dad pretty much just farmed, grain farmed. Did that stuff. But anyway. So.
Yeah, growing up on a farm's fun.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed that. I mean, I got to be in the lucky, I don't want to say era, but like where 4-wheelers started getting really big. So we'd always, me and my brother both had a 4-wheeler. So we'd be able to go down, and we had like a wooded area behind ours. So we had like fields that surrounded 3/4 of our farm, and then the field was down across this little creek, and then we had a field there, but then there was all this open woods that people would hunt. But if it wasn't hunting season, we go down there, ride 4-wheelers. We used to back in the day. There's a bus down there, a school bus, that in a flood in like the 60s had washed up there on the riverbank of what's the Wapsipinicon River, and had washed up on there and was just always there. And so we just went down there. We had this like school bus, this rusted out, no seats in it, full of wasp nests, school bus. So we go down there, and we'd always go down there, go fishing and hang out, and had picnic tables. And it was back in the day when we were younger, and my grandparents could get around a lot more. And my dad was still around, and my mom, and they'd have it all mowed out, and you'd have this big giant clearing in the middle of the woods that you'd have this trail that would go down that you could drive down with cars, and There's a school bus down there, and then you'd go down there and go fishing, camping. Well, we never camped down there, but, picnicking and that kind of stuff. It was tons of fun. And then as we got older, we didn't do that as much. And so now there's like trees that have fallen down across the path. I think the bus they had a tree fall in the middle of it. Like, trees fall down all the time.
Yeah.
So now we haven't been down there forever. So I'm sure the weeds are, above my head.
Yeah.
But,
But so the farm is still, you got the farm still in
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah. We still have the farm. My brother does it almost every day. He works for a couple different farmers. That's what he does. And so, he goes out there pretty often. My grandparents are, in their 80s.
Oh, okay.
And my grandpa, won't even let me carry stuff. He's like, I still got it. Like, I can carry this. And I'm like, all right, man.
Now
Do your thing.
that was your dad's folks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad's mom and dad. My mom's mom and dad, they live out in the country, but they don't have a farm.
Uh-huh.
He's a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
He was a World War II. Does that sound right? Oh, I'm going to get in trouble. World War II, he worked on, he was a mechanic, worked on airplanes.
This is your
helicopters.
mom's dad?
Yeah.
How old is he?
In his 80s.
It might be more, well, I don't know. Yeah, boy, if you want to be World War II, you got to be pretty old these days.
Maybe it was Korean War.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know. I feel really bad now that I don't know that. I should know that. My brain's not working really well. Anyway, so you grew up on a farm in Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So were you in like band and choir and stuff like that?
I did. I was more of a music, like with singing and stuff. Not as much with band instruments.
No.
But here they had, when they were doing some band stuff here at Emmanuel years ago, our one band director, he was going to move away or something, so he's going to move away. Well, then our Board of Education said, well, we just won't have band classes for the kids. And I thought, well, that stinks. So then I talked to a few friends of mine, and I said, if could I take some lessons from you guys, and what could I do to maybe learn enough about instruments to help the kids get started?
Yeah.
The one guy I talked to, he was a middle school band director, and he said, I'll tell you what you can do. He says, I'm going to give you some lessons. And he said, you'll learn some stuff. And he said, if you're comfortable with kids picking up an instrument and practicing it for a while, and pretty soon they're going to know more about the instrument than you do. If you don't mind that, he says that may happen. And it's true. If the kids get going with an instrument and they really want to do something with it, they'll know more than I'll know after a while, which is fine with me. That's what I think should be.
That's what teaching is in general. Yeah.
So anyway, I do. Well, like you know more about the alto saxophone than I do probably,
and the tenor and the bari sax. Come on now.
There you go. So anyway, but I mean, it's so that's why I've kind of fallen into that over the years.
Okay.
I know we got some other guys that work here with the instrument stuff. Tim Dowling is here doing stuff, and Aaron actually knows quite a bit about band instruments and stuff too. He was a pretty good clarinet player back in his day. So.
He looks like a clarinet player.
Yeah.
No, actually, if I had to pick him, I would think he was a trombone guy.
Yeah,
that would have been my guess.
Yeah.
I would say if you told me you were in band, I would have stopped you and I would have guessed that you played the sousaphone.
Yeah. Well, and I had somebody wanted me to do some trombone stuff when I was in grade school, but I never got into it, and I probably would have done better if I'd have done that, because when you try something when you're younger, you feel a little more comfortable with it. But anyway, so. No,
yeah, I think that it's that, again, it all comes back to balance, right? It's that you have people that if you pick, they talk about this with baseball, with sports. I'm gonna fix this real quick. Sorry if it's loud to you people in your ears. They talk about that with baseball. Is there are people that just play baseball. That's all they do from the time that they're younger, because they're really, really good. And a lot of coaches say, no, man, if you're a 4 or 3 sport athlete, you're much more well-rounded, whatever player. It actually makes you better in whatever sport you're doing. If you just do one, like LeBron James. LeBron James played football in high school. He did in his senior year because, he is the third, in my opinion, best basketball player in the history of basketball.
Yeah.
But if you just focus on one thing, man, you can get burned out. You can lose a lot of skills that you can gain from other stuff. If you're going to be in band and in then be in choir as well, even if you're not a good singer, so you can be in musical stuff or be in theater, just so you can understand all that stuff. Finding that variety, I think, really helps in what you're really passionate about.
And I always try and tell the kids, but usually it's the parents that prevail, because I can talk till I'm blue in the face. I'll tell the kids when they leave here in 8th grade or when they leave to go to the middle school or something, and if they've done something with an instrument or singing or something, I'll say get into high school and do something, because there's a whole different world out there in terms of the quality of music and the stuff you can do. And some of them do, and they do real well. And I'll show up at some of their concerts and say, hey, good for you. So
Well, and I always liked band and choir, and this sounds it was a very social, for what people don't think. A lot of people think that it was like, oh, like band nerd or like band this. It's a very social atmosphere. Like, I mean, you're playing music, but if you weren't playing music, if your band director is talking to just the trumpets, you're hanging out.
yeah.
I mean, you're not being disruptive, but you're just hanging out
Well,
there.
and you're also working together to make something work.
Yeah.
Like a sports team. I mean, you're gonna, if you're playing in a band, guess what? You're gonna have to do this together so the song sounds halfway decent.
Well, and you you grow those relationships with people right next to you. I mean, I remember the person that sat in front of me. This is one. There's a whole bunch of people, because like one of my wrestling buddies sat next to me, and football buddies, and then the other side, and there was another kid that his name was Ryan. Like, I can remember all the people's names around us. The craziest one that I know is in front of me was the clarinets, and we always used to goof around because it was majorly girls there, so we throw things at them and be goofy. But Bonnie, her name was Bonnie, and super nice, and we were decent friends because of that. She's really good at track. She's a professional bodybuilder now. And I mean, like, she's huge. Yeah. I mean, when I say huge, she's like jacked, like big muscles and stuff like that. But she's only like 5'4", 5'5". I mean, she's super tiny, but like, dude, she's giant now and like kind of famous in like the bodybuilding world. Like, she goes to like the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic and stuff like that. And I've never even knew that was a thing.
We'll have to get you together with Brittany Irwin's husband. I think Tyler's his first name, I think, because he played baritone sax. I know he played it through high school. He might have even played it in college.
Oh, nice.
But I don't know if he hasn't really done much here.
But
it'd be kind of cool to get.
I played the baritone sax for like 1 month, and it was because they were said in jazz band we needed a baritone sax, and I was like, I guess. So I played this big giant thing, and afterwards I was like, I'll stick with the tenor, man. You gotta have like the lung capacity of orca whale to be able to hold your breath that long.
My wife had a high school student from Belvedere High School play his baritone sax in one of her church services over at St. John's today, the couple of weeks ago, right before the COVID stuff came along, and she showed. I heard a recording, and all that Barry, it just got these real low.
All you hear is boom, boom, boom. Yeah,
but it sounded good. So.
No, it's always fun to be able to do that. Sorry, anything that you can do, I think, with that kind of stuff. That's why I always taught our high schoolers, like, be involved in something. I don't care what it is. Find something to be involved in, even if it's not a school activity, even if it's not band or choir. Be involved in something. I mean, did you guys have 4-H when you were?
We did.
FFA?
I wasn't that involved with 4-H. Our family just didn't get that involved with it. But it's a good organization. But that was never. Yeah, that was never our thing. But
no, you weren't 4-H people.
No, sorry. Nope.
Head, hands,
hearts, health. Yeah.
No, man. Those are always good fun things. But like, being involved in something where you have to work together. I mean, 4-H, you're showing animals. I mean, it can be a very individual thing. But you have a whole entire barn full of people that are in your club that have all their animals there. And if you walk by and you see somebody, something's whatever, you help out.
So did you show animals? Did you show?
Yeah. So I showed. This is the funny thing. When we went back before everything, we were back for a weekend for my buddy who actually just had his kid yesterday. Had his son. They had a baby shower, so my wife went to that, and we were hanging out, and the kids were hanging out with my mom, and she was showing them old videos of me, like old like when I was in a musical and stuff like that. And first of all, it is the cringiest, most embarrassing thing to ever see.
Get a few of those videos around here. Maybe we can have a tech person that can put them on our face space or whatever that's called.
There is zero chance that that's leaving that house. Ooh. But anyway, so she was showing them, and my wife did not know that I showed horses for the first year. So I showed a horse there, and you have to wear like these super tight black pants and a bolo tie and a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And man, I'm the scrawniest, most embarrassing looking thing. Yeah. But anyway, so I showed that, and I showed rabbits, and then I got into nothing that's wrong with that, but in my head it was like, oh my gosh, I'm showing rabbits and horses. Like, come on. So then I got into showing hogs and cattle,
Yeah.
which, was like
Yeah.
what, as a dude, you wanted to show. So I showed hogs and cattle for a couple years, but, it was fun.
My cousin, they're up in Walworth County, so they do the fair stuff up there. And I know one time we were up there in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, walking around. So then all of a sudden, I'm walking in this pig barn, and I see my cousin's names all over, his kids' names all over by these pigs, and they never had a pig on their farm in their life. So I saw him later that day. I said, "What are you guys showing pigs for?" He said, "Oh, they're easier to show," and he says, "You can make money showing them." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever."
Oh yeah, you don't got to. So if
They're harder. Cows are, cattle is harder.
well, yeah. So like a horse, like you got to train it. You got to work with it. You got to be able to have it do what you want. Same thing with a cow. Like, you can't just go up to any random cow and put a halter on it and be like, "Let's go." I mean, I've had to, use my entire body weight and drag, a 1,000-pound cow.
Clean them up. I mean, man, the cows that you see in the fair, they didn't look like the cows on our farm. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, but with pigs, you literally get them fat, you run them around a little bit so they got some nice muscle tone, and then you bring them in and you poke them around there
with
and
a stick. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, you don't poke them, but you lead them with a stick. I don't want to make people think that we're
right.
hitting pigs with sticks, but no, I always enjoyed that. I mean, when I was a kid, I was very involved in a lot of different stuff, and it was nice. And and in honesty, it's probably why I never got into like trouble or the wrong crowd or any. I mean, we all make mistakes, but like probably never. The reason why I didn't have a lot of that was because I had showing 4-H, showing cattle. I had sports. I had band, choir. I mean, we got to do band trips and choir trips and all different kinds of things. I mean, it's important to be, for somebody that's in their formative years, that's, learning who they are, to have a real big variety of stuff to be able to try out. Yeah. Because you do figure that out. Because if you don't have those.
Well, and I think too today, I mean, kids can get so specific in what they're doing. Like, oh, I'm gonna play basketball. That's all I'm gonna do. Well, but like you say, they do it to a point, and then they're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm burned out. So I think there's something to be said for giving the kids a smattering to say, try this, try this, try this. And I suppose at a certain age you got to say, well, what's one thing you really want to do?
Yeah. But I mean,
they need a balance, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're talking sports, like they say, in high school you can focus on one thing, but you could, especially. So there was a guy that I knew, his name was Matt Fields. He wrestled heavyweight at Iowa. So, I mean, he's obviously really good. I think he won Iowa State Championship twice his junior, senior year, and then got like second and third his freshman and sophomore year. I mean, phenomenal. Dude, this is a giant beast of a man as a 17-year-old. I mean, huge. Like, I can't even, I'll show you a picture later about what he looks like. I mean, it looks like just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he wanted to stay in shape, and everybody wanted to play football because he's a big guy. And he really liked wrestling, but he didn't want to just wrestle. He didn't want to play football because he didn't want to get hurt. So you know what he did? He ran cross country. Yeah. So there's this like 240-pound, 3% body fat dude running around, out in the middle of the woods running cross country, because what he really wanted to do was wrestle. But he knew that you can't just do that. There has to be this, variety of things that help you be better at what you really want to do.
Aaron Courts, he's a cross country guy, cross country and track.
I never understand that running thing. We talked about that. I don't get running. I mean, I can run. I just don't want to.
Yeah. Well, I know. And our oldest son, he was going to do your age. He was going to try cross country one year. He played football the first 2 years, did cross country as a junior, and then played football. And he said the cross country was exhausting.
Oh, I bet.
He just
run.
And
there's no point. You just run.
And our guys, they played football at Lutheran High in Rockford back in the day, where we just got trounced. We didn't win anything. But
the problem with me with cross country running is it's supposed to be competitive, right? If you're in basketball, let's say, right, and it's competitive, there's different ways that you can go about winning. You can be like, I'm only going to play defense, and I'm going to try and stop them, or I'm going to be able to learn how to shoot from outside, and I can do that, or I'm bigger than everybody else, so I can go inside. There's different ways where if it's not working one way, you can do it the other way. If you're trying to beat somebody in cross country, there's one way to do it, and it's run harder. Like, and it's like, well, if I'm not good at running harder, then I can't win.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no other angle. It's just
Yeah.
run.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and Aaron would tell me, or a cross country person would probably be like, no, there's breathing, there's the way that you do this and that.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, it's running.
Yeah.
You're just running.
Yeah. I think if my sons had to do it again, although our youngest one, the Iowa guy, he
Go Hawkeyes.
he liked football.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you miss most about high school? When this was his first year at Iowa, I miss football because that was where
At least he went to a good school to watch football.
Yeah, there you go. That was where we got relation. We worked together as a team and blah blah blah. It's also where he almost screwed up his shoulder permanently. So, but I thought, oh well, whatever. So, but
Well, speaking of running, you walk everywhere.
yeah, mm-hmm.
It's kind of like running. I don't want to walk everywhere.
I don't mind walking. I just do it. I don't know what I'd look like if I didn't. I'd probably weigh 600 pounds.
No, it's what I'm going to look like after this quarantine thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you just walk because just enjoy being out and about?
I really got into it over the years, and it's just my thing to go back and forth, and then I get my 4 miles a day in, and then my wife wants to go for a walk later at night, and I'm like, no thanks, I already walked, and she walks way faster than I do anyway, so she walks on her own during the day. So,
Oh, come on! You can't leave her hanging like that.
anyway, that's all right. So anyway,
I
separately.
yeah, I mean, I guess you could have that. Why did your son go to Iowa? I'm just wondering.
He had a case of Big Ten-itis back in 2010, 2007, 8, 9, 10. A lot of kids from around here wound up at Iowa.
Oh, nice.
And they looked at Champaign, but they got probably a little better deal to go to Iowa. And like I said, he wanted to. The one place we took him to Valpo and said, "Oh, look at Valpo. How about Valpo?" So we went there and looked at it, and it was engineering. He got an engineering degree, and he said, "I've been doing the Lutheran school thing, all the way through grade school, Lutheran high. He got, like I said, he got a case of Big Ten-itis, and he went there and did well. He got a good education there, and he's doing okay."
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people get. Like, I'm very much I went to Concordia, I'm private school, but I mean, if you try, the only problem with going to a Big Ten or a state school like that is that the distractions are tenfold what they would be at a smaller school.
Yeah.
But if you can not let those distractions get in your way, you can get a great education.
Yeah.
Being able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and yeah, he did. So, but yeah, you know what this reminds me of? When you straighten, this is a totally different subject, but when you straightened your mic about 10 minutes ago, I'm sitting here looking at you across the table, and you mentioned Home Improvement. What was that guy's name that you never saw his mouth?
Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson. You remind me of Wilson. I don't know if you can see my mouth. Maybe I'm sitting higher, but this is kind of funny because I'm thinking, why was I? And I'm thinking, yeah, that's what you remind me of Wilson because, and then I think, was it like one of the last episodes or somewhere where you finally saw?
It was such a disappointment.
His mouth.
Yeah, because you were like, they should have just never done that.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to like that. Like I said, that show was one of the ones that I used to watch pretty consistently back in the day. But I mean, I really, Tim Allen's a good actor. Seems like a good dude in general, but a very good actor. I mean, he had a lot of really good ones. Like, dude, anytime Christmas comes around, you watch a Santa Claus, no matter what.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all right. Well, we're at 48 minutes. We're
Okay.
almost at an hour.
Yeah.
We got time is it? We got church in 45 minutes.
What else do you think? Anything else you think anybody wants to hear about?
Are you playing church tonight?
No, I'm not playing church.
No?
Aaron's on tonight.
Gotcha.
So,
You speaking of you and Aaron, we have a little competition coming up here.
We'll have to see who the winner is.
I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good. I do think that also we'll find after we do that thing on Friday that on next week, if you want to sit down and play some stuff on the organ, I think that'd be really nice.
Yeah.
We can just do kind of like what we did with Aaron with the whole little.
Well, we have. I mean, somewhat seriously, we have had some people in our congregation ask for some different songs and hymns and stuff that they'd like to hear, and hopefully, if they have this connection that would be good because we'll put them together. Maybe even do the words with them, a couple of verses, so that if it helps them with their journey as we're journeying together. That's what this is all about. That we can do that.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so.
anything that we can do to help people. Like, I don't think people's faith wanes in these times, but I think that it can get put on the back burner because I think a lot of times, when things like this are so at the forefront, a lot of times, even in happy times and in troubling times, a lot of times our faith sometimes takes that back seat because there's so much of a physical need, earthly need here. And so that spiritual aspect kind of takes that back seat because we're so worried about the physical part. And granted, we should. I mean, God calls us to take care of our physical bodies. He calls us to take care of each other physically as well, spiritually. And so, making sure, we're making sure people are taken care of physically, doing Meals on Wheels, and if anybody needs anything, going grocery shopping for people and that kind of stuff. But we're also supposed to take care of them spiritually. And so being able to, especially people that grew up with, hymns in church.
And I mean, I've had people point blank tell me, I'm afraid. I mean, that's exactly what they've said.
Yeah.
And well, at least I think if you admit you're afraid, it's okay. I mean, it's
well, and there's a certain demographic that, I mean, my mom is in that demographic where they say it hits people the hardest in between 40 and 60, 65, something like that.
The guy that apparently some gentleman passed away in Winnebago County yesterday. They were saying it on the news. So, and he was in his 60s. So I'm like, great. I just turned 60 a week ago, but oh well.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. So,
did you have a celebration in your house, just you and your wife?
No, I told my wife when this was going to happen.
She should have Skyped everybody.
Everybody started shutting stuff down about a week before my birthday, and I looked at my wife. I said, "Boy, guess whose 60th birthday is going to stink this year?" So, but we Skyped or Zoomed or putted, or I think the Zoom. I think you call it. I think if I was doing it, it would be called putt. But anyway, but we got together with everybody that way, and the kids sent some food in. So I mean, it was really nice.
You should have your wife. I was just looking at there's an app called House Party, and you can play charades with video chat with your kids.
There you go. Okay.
So you could call your son or your daughter-in-law or whatever, and you guys could play charades
there you go.
together. We were sitting there the other night, and my wife got a call, and it was my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. And I was like, why are they call? Like, they don't call. Like, and that's what it was. So we literally sat there, and Dennis was watching a movie, and he was like, can you guys please be quiet? Because we were just like playing, what's that game I have right over there? The one where you got to guess. It's that, I have a game over there where you got to try and guess whatever you're trying to say. So you got to describe what they're being said. I can't think of the name of the game. I don't want to get up. But anyway, so we were just like, screaming to the phone like this stuff, and Dennis being 6 was like, can you guys please be quiet? Trying to watch Sonic the Hedgehog over here. And we were like, it's blue and it's big and it's next to the Atlantic Pacific. And they're like, ocean. We're like, yeah, like just yelling things like we're
well, I always
children.
everybody's talking about their iPhone or whatever you call it, and then I always bring up my W phone because I said it's a phone I call it a W phone because it hangs on the wall in my kitchen, and it's black, and I took the receiver off, and they got it stamped inside when you check it out. I think it was manufactured in 1950. So I got this phone that's 70 years old.
Is it a rotary phone?
Yeah, it's a rotary phone. It's still working.
Whoa.
But you can pick it up. I mean, I've literally seen people talk on it or look at it like, how do you make this work? You just pick it up.
Well, I know what a rotary phone is because our farm shop has a rotary phone in it, and it's always been there, and it still does, because when you got to hear it out at the farm, it's got to ring really, really, really loud.
Yeah.
And so, but do you still use it?
Yeah, the rotary was starting to go a little slow, and it was hanging up a little bit. So I got a little WD-40 and went squirt, squirt, and it works fine now. So
you still use your rotary phone? Yep. That's bananas.
So anyway, but whatever. So.
Do you have an actual because you have a house phone?
I mean, we have. My wife has a smartphone that she uses, and she knows how to use it better than I do. So
why don't you? I mean, good for you not having a smartphone, but why? What's the reasoning behind not having it?
Not having a smartphone?
Yeah.
I don't know. I told my one son a while back. I said, I don't know how much I want one. He says, as much as you can, if you can do your stuff and do your responsibilities and not have to resort to it too much, Good for you. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, but you can. But
maybe
here's-
I'm weird.
No, it's not. Well,
Whatever.
here's my. I was just gonna make a comment. Here's my thought with it is as your grandkids gets older, you're going to want to have it for only the sole purpose of being able to FaceTime or video
we do,
chat.
like I said, the whole Zoom thing or whatever.
I guess
stuff,
if you have a computer at home, you can do that on there too. So
so
cool,
it works.
nice. All right, well,
Anyway,
Dan, thanks for coming in. I want to shake your hand to get you.
Yeah.
A little,
fist bump or
little
whatever.
Air 5.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming. We'll go do church and
Yeah. Thank you.
and yeah.
Thanks
so-
for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. God bless.